you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Show you much love. Thank you. Make sure that you do share this link, guys. Make sure that you are sharing. Make sure that you are liking, just spreading the message about the positive movements that's taking place. Also want to give a great big shout out for Vanessa JC for allowing us to utilize the studio, our awesome, phenomenal studio. What exactly is the name of the studio again, Vanessa? It's Warehouse 24. For those of you who may not be aware of it, this is Warehouse 24, our awesome facility. So we definitely want to just thank Vanessa JC for giving us this opportunity to utilize this platform as well. So guys, today's topic that I actually had listed was the transitional adaptation. So if you guys are checking out the link or the description that I have, basically it's talking about relating to characteristics of a process or a period of transition. Also, the action or process of adapting or being adapted. The adaptation of teaching strategy to meet students' needs. So in other words, guys, let me turn this down for you guys. What I'm actually speaking of is just the ability and the skill set of transition and also adapting to various different situations that we may come across in life. And as you guys know, I love speaking about elements, and one of the main elements that I decided to speak on today was basically talking about with water. Many of us, we can all relate to dealing with having an understanding what water is. But one question that I do want to ask you guys is, when you think of the element of water, what comes to mind when you actually think about water? For those of you who may not know, water is an element. Basically, can also as H2O, consisted of hydrogen and oxygen, but also at the same time, many people don't understand the characteristics of water, such as the different states of being that it actually has. So the three states of beings that I'm going to speak to you guys about with this particular element is it has the three states of being, which is a gas, solid, and liquid. This is relevant to us in everyday situations in life where we should really learn to take the characteristics of water and learn how to apply it in our lives for multiple different situations. So for the first one most people are familiar with is the ability of water being in a liquid state. Now, usually when we think of a liquid state, just think of it being fluid, you think of rivers, oceans, streams, and so forth, right? But when we think about that element being utilized in that particular aspect, what do we usually see is taking place? Majority of the times what's taking place is water is used to transport. So if we're thinking of like boats, ships, and so forth, like, or even just streams and oceans, it's used to transport. So it's showing us that we should always remain in motion, so to speak. So if we're actually in like an ocean or a river, we'll notice that we should always be moving. We're always on top. We're always afloat. So when we're actually understanding how water actually utilizes this state of being as a liquid for transportation, we need to understand that it really loves breaking through barriers. It really doesn't like being limited. So if you really look at the abilities that water has is, anything that you apply to it, it'll take on, or anything that it's applied to, it'll take on as well. So water remains in like a very neutral state, and it has the ability to adapt. So what do I mean by that, of it having the ability to adapt? What I mean by that is, no matter what situation or circumstance that it is faced with, it finds a way to remain in existence. So whether that be it being poured into a bottle, whether that it being a bottle being put into a bowl that it's consisted of, it's still going to find a way to exist and blend with whatever is applied to it or whatever it's applied to. So that's very significant to us when it comes to situations in our lives where we need to learn how to adapt to certain situations, no matter if we have pressure applied to us or if we're being applied to something else. We just really need to understand how to transition our state of being from just understanding the liquid state of being. Also, the liquid state of being, we know that we utilize it to also cleanse and purge situations or things like to that nature. But we're going to stick more so just the ability that it has to just survive and thrive throughout that. The state of being that I'm going to speak about as well is the gaseous state of being. So this is how it works. We have the gas, solid, and liquid. Most people are familiar with the liquid, but what we don't know is, what most people may not be familiar with is, depending on the temperature change, if too much heat is applied to water, if it's in a heated situation, it has the ability to transition and take the state of being into a gaseous state, which means that it's not that it doesn't exist, it just finds another way to exist. And that's what we need to understand of learning how to utilize that ability in our own selves, in our own lives. Where if it's a heated situation, we need to learn not to necessarily just disappear, but to kind of reconstruct ourselves, reconstruct our DNA, reconstruct our mind, our emotions, our mentality, and with the circumstances if it's a heated situation, where we need to expand. Now, that's what happens with water when it goes from a liquid to a gaseous state. When heat is applied to it, it expands. So it really basically goes from being just this little small size to where it now fills up the atmosphere. Now, when it's filling up the atmosphere, just imagine you kind of being in the mindset or being in the form of water, right? Heated situation takes place. You begin to expand and swell up to where now you just disperse into the atmosphere. But now you're actually at a lighter state of being to where now you're up in the clouds, you're in the atmosphere, and you're able to view everything below. This is basically a way of us learning how to transition from just being there, just grounded by gravity, and then where we just expand into the atmosphere to where now we have a bird's eye view of the situation. Now what ends up happening is collect our thoughts. It allows us to just observe the situation for what it is by taking ourselves out of that situation and viewing it from a third party's perspective. So when we actually start to do that, if you notice how it happens when on a heated heated day, right? And water evaporates. After a while, when enough water is evaporated, it starts to gather and collect itself into what we call clouds. So when we're looking outside and we look in the sky, when we're seeing clouds, that's just water that's collecting itself once again to prepare itself to transition back into that liquid state for it to fall back down to the ground of the earth. So why me actually saying that? I just really want you to just imagine yourself being water once again. You're going up into the clouds, and now you're observing the situation, you gather your thoughts, and now you're ready to return to the situation to where you can actually make an impact to that. So when we actually look at when the weather changes and it begins to rain, rain is a symbol of like refreshing. It refreshes everything. It's a state of being where it allows itself to be shared amongst everyone else. It allows itself to return back to the situation, to clean and purge the situation, to wash away whatever may have been negative, then also to cool down the situation, because when it's hot outside and it rains, it cools off the temperature, it cools off the atmosphere. And that's what we should actually get in the habit of doing, is collecting our thoughts together and then returning to the situation, but we're cleaning the situation, we're cooling down the situation. Now, that's just one way of looking at it when it actually collects itself and it returns back to the ground. But the other state of being that I want to speak about is when the water is in a solid state. So how can water be in a solid state, you may ask? So the way water transitions into being a solid state, that's when it meets with a freezing temperature. A temperature that drops below freezing temperature, where it drops below to where now the water, the molecules, they condense even more with each other. Now they're locking, they're finding a form of solidity, you can say. They're being it's more stable, it's more stationary, to where now, if it's applied to a situation, so to speak, like another heated situation, it's going to release itself, it's going to melt, and it's going to cool down that situation as well. But the only difference this time is it's not just in a liquid state, it's in a solid state, and it has the ability to focus itself on that one point. It has the ability to pinpoint that situation or that surface, so to speak. Take an ice cube, sit it on top of a heated plate or a heated cup or whatever. What happens is it's concentrating that on that one area, and it's allowing itself to melt. Now, when it's melting, it's returning back to a liquid state, and it's melting to somewhat submerge or to cover the surface of that area. Now, when it's actually doing that, it's really cleaning it, number one, it's cooling it off, but now it's also letting its presence be known, like, I'm still here. So that's what happens with us in life. When we're facing certain situations, we go through all these different transitions and these states of beings, from going from a liquid to a gas, which is the clouds. Observe the situation. Once we gather and collect our thoughts like the cloud, we return back to the situation to clean the situation, to cool the situation down. But then also, we have an ability to where if it's not necessarily too hot, if it's too cold, we can focus on a certain situation to be preserved and then we can be applied to a specific area or a specific situation in life to where we can cool that specific situation off. We can cool that down and clean and do whatever we need to basically make our presence known again. So in other words, that's like a way of saying where some people may be on the path of success, right? And you may not hear anything from them for a while. Excuse me. You may not hear anything from them for a while. However, that doesn't mean that they're not in the laboratory working out like a solution or working on a plan or working on something to actually make a statement from when they actually return, just as rain does. Rain comes back with a statement. Majority of the time when it's heavy rainfall, that's what we consider like a thunderstorm or a rainstorm. When, if you know what a rainstorm or thunderstorm is, it's coming with sound, it's coming with flashing lights, it's coming with heaviness, and it's letting you know, like, anybody that's in the way, if you don't have an umbrella, then you better stay indoors. So that's how some people actually do when they're actually on a path of success. They resemble those same exact qualities, those same exact forms of characteristics, to where they make a statement whenever they return back. When they're trying to show more and more success of their progress and their growth in life, they return back with a bang, with a clash, just like thunder does. They return with a flash of light, just as lightning does, and it lets it be known, like, I have power, I have authority, I have dominance. And certain people, such as like children, most people know children, they're afraid of when it's a thunderstorm. They're like, oh my God, what's going on? They get so scared and frantic, and they just don't know what to do besides just to go hide under the bed or go to the parents and so forth. That's symbolic to people that are in our lives that may be immature or who may have a childlike mentality, and they're basically somewhat hating, you can say, on like your success and your progress. And then when you return back, they go scattering and trying to find like a rock under the hide. And you're like, okay, I'm here. There's nothing you can do about it. You state your authority, state your name, state who you are, state what you're doing. And everyone else, they will flee. Those that are not strong enough, that's not about business, that's not about power, that's not about standing their ground or going against the odds. They will no longer be in your path. That allows you, now you're looking at relationships from one element with another element. Now you're working with sound, you're working with vision, you're working with presence. So when you actually have sound and you have vision and now you have presence, that's your stage right there, that's your platform, and it allows you to go throughout life walking with more of with a greater purpose. Now everyone knows who you are. You're now a storm. You're taking the world, you're taking the road of success by storm. And those that are not equipped with the necessary tools, whether they're going to assist you or whether they're going to be able to just endure that season or that time or that storm, they will no longer be in your way. So that actually opens up room for you to actually be able to have a clarity, a clear path for you to just continue on with no distractions, without any obstacles. It removes those obstacles, just as rain does. It'll remove any obstacles. If there's a pile of dirt right there, it turns it to mud, which brings this pile that's this high, and it melts it down to where it disperses it, to eventually it cleans the path to where now you can walk clean. So, guys, these are just things I want you to just kind of visualize. No matter what situation you may be faced with, just understand these characteristics that water has. Understand its different transitional states. Understand the ability that it has to be able to adapt to multiple and various different situations. You have the ability to be a liquid. Once again, I'm just going to recap everything. You have this ability to be in a liquid state, which is for transition, which is to consume or immerse or encompass or to be applied to something. You also have the ability to, if it's a heated situation, you have the ability to leave that situation, head up to the heavens, to the clouds, to expand, to have a bird's eye view, to view it from a third person's point of view, to remove yourself from the situation to where it's safe, to analyze the situation, gather your thoughts collectively just as the clouds do. And when they gather their thoughts, and now you're able to return back to that situation, to clean it, to wash it away, to refresh it. And once it's refreshed and once it's clean, you have an option of whether you have a sun shower to where it's beautiful, nice, and cooling and relaxing, refreshing through that day, or you have the option of coming and taking it by storm, just as a thunderstorm, where it's boom, clap, and flashing lights and standing with power and authority, to where now anyone that is not equipped with a heavy-duty umbrella or they don't have their raincoats, they're not going to stand in your path. They're going to be removed. If they're about business, just as we know how business people do, we come prepared no matter what. So if it is a rainstorm or a thunderstorm, we have our umbrellas packed up and we have everything that's waterproof so we can get to our destination, get to the office, get to that meeting that we need to, and basically make things happen. But if you're not equipped with it, it does not matter. But then also remember the solid state. The solid state is for us to concentrate, to focus on a particular area that is heated, that needs to be cooled down, for us to just apply ourselves specifically and focus just on that one task that is at hand. And then we return back to our natural state of being that most people's familiar with, where people are like, wow, you're really yourself. Yeah, that's because you returned back to the liquid state, to where now people can visually see you in a clear vision. So guys, with that being said, I just hope that that was meaningful to you guys. I hope that you guys can take something from that, learning how to apply and learning how to transition, but also learning to adapt, because understand, it is a process. They coexist. In order to transition, you have to learn how to adapt. In order for you to be able to adapt, you have to learn to transition. So it's one and the same. So understanding these qualities, these skills, and you start to apply them to many different situations, you see yourself progressing gradually throughout life on a path and the road to success. So guys, with that being said, that's my topic for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I am Elegance Champagne, founder of Abstract Thoughts, Our Transition Mind, VP with Minds Up with my beautiful queen, Takiyah Diamond, and then also a part of a phenomenal tag team, transformational team with Queen Mother and Mako. Thank you very much, and thank you, Vanessa JCA, once again. So guys, with that, have a blessed one. See you guys next Tuesday. Blessings. Thank you. You said it kept stopping? Yeah, don't stop it there. So we'll be bringing up the next guest, everyone, so stay tuned.
Hoping everybody's enjoying. Next, we're going to bring up the beautiful and sparkling Takiyah Diamond. I hope that you've been inspired. Listen, if you enjoy what you've been seeing so far, please leave some comments below. We are truly grateful to be here in Vanessa JC's studio. And, you know, it's always important to support our own women entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs of color. One of the things that we have to relearn is the importance of supporting one another. And so we're very grateful that Vanessa has opened up the opportunity for us to be here.